Wow.
Hello and welcome to FairPlay, the fair's new show exploring journeys through the magical medium of music.
Guests are asked to choose 5 songs which define their journey through life in the industry. Whether it be a song from their first concert, the first act they ever booked, a guilty pleasure, and so many more.
I'm Nicky D.
And I'm Will.
For those who don't know, the Fair are an independent festival production company based in London but producing events across the UK, in Europe, the US, the Metaverse and beyond.
We've created this show as we are keen to amplify a range of voices from across the industry. Whether it be from DJs to promoters, production staff to agents, we've been speaking to people from all across the festival sites.
We've attached a track list in the description below. Take a look and leave a comment.
Okay, so joining us today is DJ and producer Rami Ali. Rami,
Hello.
Hi, how are you? How's
I'm
it
good,
going?
thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Wonderful.
You had a good day upstairs?
I have. It's been a great day.
Wonderful. So most of the listeners will have heard some of your fantastic tracks that are available on Spotify, as I was doing my research earlier. But this would have been from some of your lovely Boiler Room sessions on the radio. But since 2022, you have debuted in the Ministry of Sound, is that correct?
Yeah, I did actually play there before that, but I've played there a couple of times after that.
Couple of times. But there's been sort of countless festivals and shows and also monthly mixes on Rinse FM. So we want to know your sort of, what the kind of music and what your influences and pretty much where it all started.
Well, I think the sort of style of music that I make and listen to and go out to, even though I love all music, even though that's quite a broad thing to say, but it's usually house, techno, dance music, bass music that you can go out to all night long or all weekend long and enjoy yourself.
Yeah.
Drinking water and those things, you know.
But it's important to stay hydrated.
Definitely, always.
And for our aspiring artists listening and also watching out there, how did you get your first gig? How did that come around? And what advice would you give to them?
To be honest, I can't remember what my first gig was or how I got it, but I do remember this question and I have got an answer for this.
Brilliant.
I think the best thing to do is get yourself out there as a sort of up-and-coming DJ or producer. Go to gigs, go to events, find people like promoters that are in your sort of area. Let's say if you're in London, you know, make friends with them. And just show yourself as a good person and you're interested in the music and make good music. Although at the beginning maybe your music isn't good, it needs practice or it takes time. It does, yeah.
But I think you're right. Is that just sort of just talking to people and just being out
100%,
there?
100%, yeah. A lot of the stuff for me has come through friends or people I've known or worked with before. Yeah.
So your first track from your first concert, a little thing called Tea in the Park in Old Scotland, and you were 16 years old. So this was like, what, 5 years ago?
Oh, such a charmer, Will.
Which one?
It's probably about, I don't know, over 17 years ago now. But it was also not my first concert, but I can't, it was the first concert that I was keen to go to.
Yeah.
Because it was Tea in the Park, it was Wu-Tang, and it was probably one of the craziest festivals that I've ever been to, especially as a 16-year-old from London.
Highlights, what were the crazy bits?
Just even getting there was a flood on the site, I think, that year, and it took like 14 hours to get there. I was like on a coach from Glasgow to the site, and I remember the whole road was blocked, so I had to jump out the coach and walk up because we were on the guest list and we didn't want to miss the guest list box closing time or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And I just remember walking past all the people getting beeped at and wondering why they were beeping at me. And then I realised I was probably one of the only brown people that went to that festival that year.
Really?
Yeah. Which is no specific bad experiences, but it was just noticeable.
But it is one of those things, and I think, as I don't call myself white, I call myself luminescent because I'm so pale. But I think it is one of those things that you don't realise until it's actually your thing, and you're just obviously trying to get this wonderful festival, trying to beat the floods, trying to beat the traffic. So it's crazy that you still sort of have to go through these things.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, a lot of people at that time were, I don't know, it was just a weird experience. I don't think anyone expected to be waiting for hours. So I think that people were a bit more, and I think when you're stuck in the car, a lot of the people getting pissed as well.
Yes.
So they're
drinking
probably
and slowly driving.
Yeah, exactly. Very slowly, lots of booze in the car, lots of things in the car, yeah.
So there's things about sort of like people feeling hesitant about going to shows and, obviously, 16 years old going to a festival. And, I know it always comes up into conversation, but it is a fact.
Yeah.
COVID, and a lot of people sort of going out there. And I think now is sort of the actual time when people are turning 18 outside of COVID.
Yeah.
And they are sort of going to there. So what would you sort of say to those people who are maybe deliberating, worried about walking through that traffic? Because obviously you've been to festivals now, and you're like, it's amazing. Like, what would you say to them who are sort of going, oh, should I go?
What, in terms of buying a ticket and worrying about
and
funds?
just actually go to the festival.
Well, I think they're well in their right to worry about these things. I think with the prominence of like social media and things like that now, you know, I even feel, especially after COVID, maybe that already, although, you know, we've had social media for a long time before that, during COVID, people were sitting at home and literally just on social media. There's not really much else to do. So I think they saw, you know, that like, I don't know, I guess it's just the concern that you're not going to get your money back. There's a whole idea that there's this cost of living crisis and whatnot. So I don't know what advice I'd give, really. I understand it is an issue and it is a bit of a problem. So I completely understand why they do it, but just try and buy a ticket. That's all I can say.
But I think it's those memorable experiences, isn't it? And it's getting through those tough times and getting through those moments. But actually, when you get there, it does give you an experience that will last forever.
Yeah, for sure.
Those incredible memories.
Yeah.
So one of those incredible memories were a lovely performance by the Wu-Tang Clan, and this is your first track.
Yep.
So this is Method Man by Wu-Tang Clan. So that was the lovely Wu-Tang Clan.
Yes.
With the song Method Man. Rami, so something people may not know about you is you are a child of war. So you were born in Iraq, but you grew up in London.
Yeah.
Are you able to tell us a bit more about that?
So I was born in the first Gulf War, which is 1990. My parents left about a year and a half after I was born. So I got here, I think it was 1992, it should be. And obviously they left and sacrificed a lot to sort of give me a better life and a better opportunity. And I think, that has a big part to play in my music, in a sense where it's, you know, within Arab culture and Muslim culture, I think, you know, becoming a musician or wanting to get into music or anything that's not becoming a doctor or a scientist is not possible, or it's not not even frowned upon. I just don't think they take it seriously. Like, there's no success in those industries. But I think that's because they're from a different era and the world has changed, obviously. But I am very grateful that I was brought here and met people outside of, you know, family, friends and whatnot. I went to school, like, learned a lot on my own. Because if I was still in Iraq, I'd probably not be in the same, you know, maybe I wouldn't like music. I'd like something else. But,
but do you think that's always sort of, do you think it's a mix of your passion for music anyway, but then also that drive to be like, no, I'm going to show them and show them?
100%. There was a big sort of like feeling that I need to, you know, the drive that I wanted to sort of prove them wrong and whatnot. But to be honest, like, you know, my dad he had a guitar and he used to play the same song over and over again. I think it's the only one he could play, but there was music in our sort of, you know.
My dad's was Smoke on the Water.
Mine was like, my dad's was, I can't remember, some sort of Spanish. Din, 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 din. That's all he'd play. Honestly, it got a bit annoying after a while, but what's I gonna say?
Have you sampled it in any of your tracks?
No, I haven't. Yeah, I need to find out what the track's called, to be honest. But what was I gonna say? I don't know. But they became supportive. I didn't go to uni. And I said I wanted to study music, just to study something, because they wanted me to study something, and I dropped out.
Just to get that tick.
Exactly, and I dropped out of that as well. So,
but I think it just goes to show, obviously, you are a very successful DJ and producer, and it just shows that you don't necessarily need to go down the path that everyone says you need to go down.
100%. I think that's the biggest thing for people to realise, especially people from cultures that are slightly not unsure, but slightly, you know, where they frown upon things like that, or becoming an artist, or becoming this and that. And my mum's a fine artist as well, to be honest. So I think, you know, I had that influence from very young, and I think I probably also thought, like, why are you telling me I can't do this when you want to go and study at St. Martin's? And
But I suppose she was championing you.
Of course. Yeah, I think they just wanted the best for me, to be honest. But, and the best was not going to uni, so that's good.
But the best is now happening.
Yep.
So with your next track, so this is, people say a shameless plug, but I think it's fantastic. Let's celebrate the music that you've created.
Yeah.
So the track is called Mad One.
Yeah.
Is that the correct pronunciation?
That is, yeah.
Wonderful. Tell us a bit more about the track and sort of what inspired it.
So I actually made this track in Saudi Arabia. I've been in Saudi Arabia for the last 5 months working out there.
Yes, you have. Who were you working there with as well?
A company called Gag Events.
Yeah.
They were producing the Formula One Roadshow and the fan zones at the FIFA Club World Cup. But yeah, was there
anyone else on that job, or
say that again?
Was there anyone else or any teams on that job?
Oh yeah, actually the fair came and supported as health and safety out with us. I became the client for the first time, which was quite good.
How was that?
And yeah, it was good. I'm hoping to win Best Client Award at the next. team outing.
We can put in some work.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
So you were out in Saudi Arabia. So was that the inspiration for this?
Yeah, I actually didn't make any music there for a while. I had to kind of pause a lot of stuff. I had to cancel a lot of gigs. And yeah, I wasn't making any music for a bit. And then at the beginning, work was very intense. I didn't really have any time to think or do anything. Yeah. And then it got to the end of the contract, and I started having a bit more free time. So I started to get back on the music. I took a little sort of studio kit with me, like a microphone and MIDI keyboard and stuff. So yeah.
And the rest is history. So let's hear it now. So this is Mad One by Rami Ali. Enjoy. So that was Mad One by the wonderful Rami Ali. So while that was playing, we were really sort of getting to the mindset of you actually created the music. And you were sort of saying that you'd finally got into the sort of right mindset. Yeah. And then I asked the question of like how you sort of layer it. So if you can tell all of the listeners more about your process.
So just going back to the comment about the mindset thing, sometimes it's taken me months and you get stuck with a track and or I don't know, it's too complicated and you just keep going back to it and trying to fix it. And I think when you get to that point, it's very difficult to accept that it's going to be a struggle to finish it. But with this track specifically, I hadn't made music for a few months before it. I was out in Saudi Arabia. I just made a bit of money. It was sunny. I was happy.
So like, hey, let's go.
Yeah. So with that specific track, I start with a kick. I had a rough idea of the kind of track I wanted to make.
Just for the lovely listeners out there, what is the kick?
The kick is the kick drum, which goes doof, doof, doof.
Okay.
Or boom, boom, boom.
And then the sort of, will there be a sort of set way that you do it, or it's just like, right, I've got the kick now, actually let me add another element?
Yeah, so I'd find a good kick, I'd EQ the kick, I'd do some compression and things that are like sort of music, sound engineering stuff until I was happy with it. And then like EQing it when you put in other instruments and tracks to make sure they all fit together. And then I found a vocal sample online that I thought might work quite well with it. Yeah. And I put it in, and that's all right.
Away we go.
Yeah.
So I think with your sort of journey, you've obviously made moves pretty fast, and like you sort of giving advice early, like getting out there, talking to people, letting them know your sort of stuff. Were there sort of any stepping stones when you sort of got over it? You're like, oh, okay, this is happening now. It's something.
Yeah, to be honest, that's a very good question. Because I actually started making music when I was 16. And that's when I went and just after school, instead of going to uni, I went and studied music production.
Yes.
I downloaded an illegal version of Logic and tried to make music. And at that time, I grew up with a lot of friends who are musicians, so like grade 8 musicians, proper musicians. Like I don't play any instruments. And we'd make music together, and I'd be like, "Oh my god, this is wicked!" They just go and like, or play a riff, and it sounds amazing.
Yeah.
And then they'd be like, "Yeah, I'm not sure about it," and it would kind of like make me feel like it wasn't good. But they're obviously very different. They've got complex musical sort of experience, and but yeah, after I did it for a good few years, and I just felt like I wasn't getting anywhere because. First of all, I didn't have the experience. I didn't have anyone teaching me. I didn't, I did it all on my own. And then I ended up having a big gap of about 7-8 years of no producing and no DJing. And I went into the events industry and became an event professional, worked with the Fair, worked with Yasmin from a very long time ago. And when you start working in the industry and being out there and going to raves, going to clubs, going to festivals, I think your ears naturally start to tune, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So one day randomly, one of the old tracks I made, which got played on Radio 1 quite a few times.
Which track was that?
It's called 50 Pence Gents.
Okay.
One of my friends, Josh Kilimanjaro, he played it at a Fly Open Air in Scotland, which is another festival that we used to produce a while back. Yeah. And I was actually at a different festival, and we'd been partying a lot, and it got to the point where it was time to go to bed. Yeah. And I noticed on my phone that I had messages from two of my 10 p.m. After going there at 8 p.m. But I noticed 2 messages from 2 of my friends that are in Scotland at the beginning of the party time. Yeah. And just as I was going to bed, I was like, "Oh, I wonder what it is." And it was a video of my friend Josh playing my track at the Boiler Room stage at Fly Open Air. And the crowd going crazy, and it just gave me instant shivers, and I was like, okay, I need to get back on music. Yeah. And then from that point on, the first time I sat to make music, it just felt like it all came to me. Yeah. And I think it was definitely like, I don't know, like becoming more of a mature person and just like understanding the world and whatnot.
Things just started to like click into place.
Yeah, for sure.
And what was, you said about the sort of like 7-8 year gap, what was that reason for you to stop producing the music, or just like, oh, this is
I kind of, first of all, I needed to make money. Yeah. Second of all, I felt like I was going nowhere with it. I think there weren't many other people or friends at that time who were doing similar things, so I didn't really have anyone to push me to do it, or you know, and then I had my parents in my ear being like, you're not going to get anywhere with it. And that's another thing. When COVID happened, they were like, "We told you so."
The world pandemic. This is your fault.
Yeah, exactly. You should have been a doctor or something. No, but anyway.
So now, do you feel like? So you spoke about the sort of grade 8 musicians before, whereas now, do you feel like there are people around you that have helped you get, of sort of, because you learn from people around you, don't you?
Yeah.
And you feel like there's specific people, if you want to give a shout out to any of them, who have helped you sort of get everything clicked into place to get you where you want to.
Yeah, I've got a good friend of mine, Rory, who's always been a supporter of mine. He's been like a friend since I went to school with his sister, and he's a DJ. He's called DJ Close One, and he's started A&Ring for Black Butter, which is a Sony music label.
Okay.
He's always paid my music and pushed me, and he's the one that recently got me signed to Black Butter. So I think him, my manager Luke, I'd like to pick him up. Josh for playing my track in Scotland and pushing me back into doing music. Yeah, that's about it. Not any of my grade 8 musicians. Don't have to get them.
But hey,
no,
how are you?
I love
Look
them
at us
still.
now.
Exactly. Yeah. They're not musicians anymore. So
no, on this journey of sort of going through, like you said, you know, working in the event industry, doing your own sort of journey through DJ and producing music, there must have been some shenanigans along the way.
Oh, there are loads of shenanigans.
What are the ones that sort of like stick out in your head that you're like, that was mad?
I don't know, to be honest. I remember actually, this is a really, really random one, but being in Iceland, I actually played a gig in Reykjavik.
I'm just in Iceland, just in Reykjavik, you know. Just
I was actually working, I think I was doing arts liaison there, but it was my friend Fred's festival, Summer Solstice it was called, but we'd been partying for a while. I'd DJ'd the day before, and I think we were waiting for like a transfer to the airport or something, but we were all and sitting there, and I think one of our friends had a rubber egg. This is the most stupid thing, but they just, I don't know why I thought this, but they threw in the egg at a couple that were walking past and hit one of them in the head, and they couldn't tell who it was. I don't know why it sounds so funny, but it's stupid as hell, but that's all I can remember basically from that whole festival.
But it is, I think you do when you're
that is a crazy shenanigan, I guess.
But it is when you're on site, when you're with those people, and when you're with the people that you literally like, you get up at 5 a.m, you're working with them all day, you go to bed at 3 a.m. the next day because you're working so hard. Sometimes throwing a rubber egg.
Yeah, I was just surprised that they even managed to hit them on the head because we were all so messed up, and yeah.
But it is just those belly laughs, isn't it? That just
there are worse shenanigans, but I don't think I can discuss.
Rami,
yes.
Tell us something random that's happened in your career.
So this is very random. I grew up in London in Kilburn. I went to school in Kensal Rise.
Yes.
And I'm not sure if you guys are aware, but there was a tornado once in Kensal Rise.
Shut up.
Yes.
Like a little tiny silly baby one?
No, like a big tornado. I actually was in sixth form, and I remember me and my friend Ashley would walk. It was what's the break period bit between lessons, whatever it's called. And we went to the shop, and we literally walked out the building and heard this mad like noise. It sounded like it really low down. Kensal Rise. Yeah, you can search it up. Go on the news. But basically, we left, and as soon as we walked out of the building, we heard this huge noise, and the sky went black. And I was like. And we were like, fuck, it's a tornado. It was like things were spinning in the air. And,
was Dorothy?
And so I'm serious. I'm not even joking about this. And then me and Ash ran in, and Ash, I don't know where she went, but I was like, shit, where's the best place to stand? So I don't like, where's this? That's probably why I'm a health and safety officer now. But I was like, where's the best? Yeah, I was like, where's the best place to stand? So I went into the middle of the corridor when there were no windows and no one was around. And I was like, why is no one else hiding here? Like, what's happening? And I stayed there for about 10 minutes before I was like, okay, nothing's happened. And I went into the form room and I was like, oh, guys, there was a tornado. Everyone was like, Rami, shut up. Like, what are you talking about? And then I went outside, and then I was like, I'm going to go and look at what happened. And we walked down the road, and there's like bricks everywhere and rubbish. And like one of my best mates, his whole front of his house had come down. Luckily, no one had died. But basically, I kept walking, and there was a BBC reporter, I think Fiona Bruce or someone.
Right.
And she basically stopped me, and she's like, do you know the area? And I said, yes.
If you tell me that the clip is available,
I spent the rest of the day with a BBC One presenter. Going around like interviewing people, and then they set up a relief centre, and then all the media went there. And I live in Kilburn, so my house wasn't affected, but I ended up being on TV, and all my friends were like, what are you doing there? You don't even live in Kensal Rise. But that was a mad experience, yeah.
So
and she gave me her email and said, look, if you need anything, contact me, and I did, and she never got back.
Is this online anywhere?
I don't know if
This
the
is your
video.
quest now.
This
I
is
need to
100%.
see-
Yeah, search
You need
Kenza
to
Rise.
email BBC.
Yeah.
If only we had contacts at BBC, Francesca
Oh, you
Bergen.
might do. Yeah.
Has there been any other sort of like tornado-esque experiences within your career as well? Or has it just
No,
been
not really. To be
nothing
honest,
at
I
that
experienced
level?
the flood in Saudi Arabia. That was also mad. I tend to don't know why. So maybe I should be worried about it, but I always end up like with a lot of drama around me
But
and
surviving the drama.
surviving. Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Surviving the
Actually, I'm a
drama.
survivor. I should use that as one of my songs, but
So from Reykjavik, we're going to
Yeah.
travel all the way down to Somerset,
Okay.
and to a place called Glastonbury.
What's
I don't know
that?
if you've heard it.
Mm.
It's a little teeny tiny party. There's a little field. It's great fun.
It is great
but
fun.
we've heard about lots of different performances of Glastonbury, but
Yeah.
taking a turn on this one, it's actually a moment that you found out the artist had died.
Yeah.
So tell
it's
us a
not
little bit
funny,
about that and sort of what the atmosphere was like and how it sort of shifted the whole festival.
So that was my first Glastonbury. I had only been to, I'd been to quite a few festivals before, but I didn't have that much money. I was quite young, so I wasn't like a seasoned Glastonbury goer. But we'd broken in, my friend actually did this wristband trick back in the day, blah, blah, blah. I didn't have a ticket, so I spent most of the festival worried
I
about...
imagined you would like with an
worried
axe
about
just running out. Let me in.
Yeah, no. Well, yeah, I've got a rubber egg now. Worried about getting kicked out. But then I just remember walking through one of the fields and hearing that Michael Jackson had died, and I was like, oh shit, like that's pretty mad.
Yeah.
And then I thought, okay, it could be a rumor. We're at a big festival, and those kind of things happen. And then everyone else started talking about it. And one of the biggest things and maddest things that the impact it had was the next morning I woke up and lots of stalls had R.I.P. Michael Jackson t-shirts already printed. Already printed, yeah.
Jeez.
Like within hours. I don't know who's got a t-shirt printing machine at Glasgow, but
Just someone in a tent.
yeah,
Just like,
literally, or with the white t-shirts and the black Sharpie. But yeah, I was kind of shocked at how quickly things can.
But also, I suppose on the other side, like it was probably amazing, like the feel of everyone, like that respect that they had
Yeah.
for him in his music.
Yeah,
and
100%. Yeah,
the iconic performer that he was.
yeah.
So that leads us nicely to our next track, which is Black or White by Michael Jackson. So that was the icon, the legend, Michael Jackson with Black and White. So obviously at Glastonbury that time, that was quite sort of something that was very heavy in the news.
Yeah.
And then obviously that sort of feel around everyone. And something you wanted to explore a bit more was sort of music and politics within the podcast. And so there's been a lot of debates around him whether they're completely separate or linked.
I think it's a big thing for me when people say that. I think it's important, and that's why I wanted to talk about it today, especially with things like Palestine. There's a big thing, especially with the UK artists, about using your platform to speak about it. And people like DJ Khaled, or Khalid, if you want to say it in Arabic, he's actually Palestinian and he's stayed completely silent. And there's a lot of stuff about the record label. Obviously, they don't want to mix in politics and whatever. But I think it's super important to talk about. It's super important to use your platform, because I think even from a few, I think everyone's in an echo chamber. I think, if you have a load of racist friends, you're likely going to see lots of racist sort of things on social media. And if it's the other way around, and and sometimes I'll post something and people will share it just because I'm posting it, and it's like, did you really think about what I
jumping
said?
out.
Yeah, but then I think
are they actually also sharing it because they want to
100%.
support?
Whereas with music, obviously music, you get people from all types, all walks of life liking music. So you can have an artist that can be liked by people all over the world, whether they're right wing, left wing, sitting in the middle, whatever. But like even posting something small that I've done, and I thought that most people on my account would, agree with. A few people have asked, questioned what I've said, and we've had a conversation about it. And it's not, I don't want to change anyone's minds or anything. I just want people to think and be more open-minded. And then they've completely been like, thank you for that. Thanks for talking about it. Thanks for, and I think a lot of the bigger artists, if they're able to sort of speak up a bit more. I know people are afraid of damaging their careers or losing deals with record labels and stuff. And it does happen. There are a lot of companies that are saying, if you do speak about politics, we'll get rid of you, basically. So people have an idea or feeling that they will get sort of like ousted if they do talk about it, although there are instances that people do. But it just depends, I guess. Like if you're vocal, you're vocal to your friends and you're vocal to people that matter to you. I can't really fault you for not using your platform if you are doing things about it. There are ways to get around it, maybe fundraising and not specifically talking about one, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, because I suppose my first thing was, using your platform, create music. Is that something you can do? You can create some music, and then a part of the proceeds, all the proceeds go. Is that something that you can do, or is there still that barrier there from your management?
Or my belly's rumbling.
Right.
Well, the thing is, like, it's just weird. Like, even my mum was like, "Don't talk about Palestine until you've kind of made it," or like, do you know what I mean? So you've got bigger. You don't want to hinder your progress and hinder like reaching that point where you can talk about these things to a wider audience and actually maybe change their minds or like make people think. But to be honest, it's like. For me, it's such a big thing because I'm Iraqi and I'm from the Middle East and I've got Palestinian friends and I completely understand the situation there. So I get it. It's not, it's not easy for some people. Some people are like, they don't want to watch the news. They're scared about talking about politics. But that kind of annoys me at the same time because it's kind of a privileged thing to not care or want to know or worry about other things that are happening in the world. Yeah. It is a massive privileged thing, to be honest. Yeah. It's like, my life is okay. I don't care. I've had arguments with people like we're comparing things and someone would be like, I'd be like, oh, but this is happening in the Middle East. And they're like, oh, well, that's not relevant. But how is it not relevant? It doesn't really make sense. Yeah.
But it is, and I think it's how those, well, I suppose that is the question. How can we help? How can we do something to move things forward and to make people more aware of it?
Keep speaking about it. Go to the protests if you can, even though our government is doing everything they can to stop us. They've talking about some of the protests being violent, and the only violence I saw at any of the protests were right-wing people during, I think it was, I can't remember what it was, but it was Armistice Day, I think. Okay. But I saw a group of guys come and like punch the shit out of one of the Palestinian protesters for no reason, and that's the only violence I've ever seen on any Palestinian protest.
But that still won't get reported on.
Yeah, of course it is. Yeah.
So thank you for sharing your views with that. Let's move on to your next track. So tell us a bit more about what this track means to you and why this one in particular. What feeling does it give you?
It gives me a feeling of being carefree. When I was looking at this question, I did think, what song could I choose? And I thought the first thing that came into mind was Freak Like Me by, I can't even remember who the artist is. Adina Howard. But the lyric is, I don't care what they say. And I thought, okay, that sounds carefree to me.
Good. So let's not care what they say. This is Adina Howard, Freak Like Me.
Perfect.
So for those who don't know, each episode we are presenting guests with an item, with a bit of an icon for festival production circles and one for many could not live without on site. Some guests may be familiar with this item, some may not. And for those listening and viewing today's show, can you describe the item that you're holding? And can you tell us what you would call said item if, because as we know, Rami is a wonderful event production man. If you didn't know what it was called, what would you call it?
If I didn't know what this was, I would think that this was some sort of golden tent peg.
Golden tent peg? Yeah. Interesting.
That also doubles up as an instrument.
Yeah. Would it be a grade 8 instrument?
Yeah, definitely. I wouldn't know how to play this.
And what would you call it?
I'd call it
a name.
The golden guitar.
The golden guitar. I love that.
Thanks.
So for those of you who don't know, for episode 24, this is what we call a
golden guitar.
It's golden guitar, also known as a podger.
Or a spanner.
A spanner. Podger spanner. A spajana.
No.
But anyway, moving on swiftly to your final track. Now this is a track that pays homage to an act that is no longer with us. So not one we'd expect from you with the sets that you've recently done. So what made you go for this track?
Well, I guess it kind of brings back to that question when you asked about my upbringing in music. But my dad used to love ABBA and Queen and who else? I can't remember. Someone else. But I absolutely love Queen. It's a shame they're not around anymore. I actually did see Queen without Freddie Mercury at Festival, I think. I think it was Brian May or something.
With Adam.
I don't know who replaced
Adam Lambert?
Maybe, I don't know.
Oh, the vocals.
I don't know. I'm not good with names. But yeah, legendary, especially for the music industry. Obviously, I don't know if you know much about Bohemian Rhapsody, and even though that's not the tune I picked, I thought that's a pretty obvious one, so I tried to go for something else, which is Bicycle Race.
Wonderful. So this is Bicycle Race by Queen. Well, Rami, this brings us to the end of our magical journey through festivals and events so far. Thank you so much for being on the story with us.
Thank you, Will. Thanks to our producer, June.
Thank you very much. And our producer, June.
And Tatiana as well. Thanks, Tatiana.
In your cotton bomb holes now. Yeah. We'll see you next time on FairPlay.
See you later.
A huge thanks for tuning into FairPlay today. We hope you've enjoyed hearing tales from across the festival site.
Subscribe to the Fairs channel and follow our socials for more content.
See you next time.
Bye.